Hello. Today's video is about the standard form equation of quadratic functions. Here it is. All quadratic equations are written in the standard form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So let's talk about what some of those letters represent. I've changed the colors of a few of them, and I'm going to start by talking about the red ones. So A and B are coefficients. You'll remember that a coefficient is a number that multiplies a variable. And then C is a constant value, so just a number. And that's also going to be the y-intercept of the quadratic function. Let's look at an example. Here you'll see the quadratic equation written in standard form of 2x squared plus 4x plus 5. And we're asked to find what the value of a, b, and c is. I have kept the colors just like before. And so if we go one by one, we can see that a is equal to 2, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to 5. So that example was pretty nicely set up for us. All the coefficients matched up to the standard form equation above. But here's another way to remember which one is which. So a is always the coefficient of the x squared term. B is going to be the coefficient of the x term. And c is going to be the number just by itself. So that's that y-intercept. So let's say we have a quadratic like this one, 3x squared minus 2x plus 2. And again, we're asked to find what the values of a, b, and c are. Well, we can say, let me start with a. I'm going to look for the coefficient that's attached to the x squared term. So here that's 3. Moving on to b, I'm going to look for the coefficient that's attached to the x term. And so here I see that there's a negative 2. And finally, if I'm looking for c, then I'm just looking for that number by itself. And so in this case, I see a 2 all by itself, and so that's going to be our c value.
Here's a tricky one.
Let's say you're given this thing, and you're asked for a, b, and c. I'm going to leave it up for a second, maybe come up with an answer for yourself before I put it on the screen. So this one's different than the one before because the standard form equation is written out of order. So just because there's a negative 4 in the first spot of the equation doesn't mean that's going to be our a term. If I'm starting with the a term, remember, I'm looking for the coefficient that's attached to the x squared term. And so here, that's going to be that negative 2. That negative 2 is multiplying with that x squared term. Moving on to b, I'm looking for the coefficient of x, and this is also a little bit tricky because I see that x at the end all by itself, and it kind of looks like it doesn't have a coefficient, but remember that when you have a variable all by itself, there's like an invisible 1 right there. There's just one x there, so that coefficient is going to be 1. And then finally, c is going to be that number by itself, which is that negative 4 at the front.
Okay.
One last problem for you. So this one is sort of the other way around. So this time, we're asked to write the standard form equation of a quadratic function. And this one has an a value of 2, a b value of negative 2, and a c value of 11. And yes, I spelled quadratic wrong. Whoops. Anyway, so the a value is 2, and so that means that I'm going to have a 2 coefficient for my x squared term. So 2x squared. Then we're told that our b value is negative 2. And so that means that I'm looking for a negative 2 that's multiplying with the x term. So I can put on a negative 2x. And then finally, a c value of 11. And so that just means that there's a positive 11 constant value at the end of that equation. So I can add on a plus 11. And there's one more thing, which is that it's not like there always needs to be an A, B, and C term. So what if the quadratic equation doesn't even have a B value, right? So just an A value of 2 and a C value of 11. So if there's no B value, then let's just cross out that term in the middle. And the reason for that is we said that b is the coefficient of x, right? And so if there's no value for it, aka if it's equal to 0, that means that the x in that equation is being multiplied by 0. And anything times 0 is 0, so it might as well not be there. So if we're going to write the standard form equation of a quadratic function with an a value of 2, no b value, and a c value of 11, then we're just going to have 2x squared plus 11.